Well, our top story today, there are breaking developments in the Austin, Texas serial bombings. A suspect in the deadly attack is reportedly dead after a police pursuit. CBS's Nikki Batiste is in the suburb of Round Rock, and as you see there, police are closing in on where the suspected bomber apparently lived. Here's Nikki Batiste with more.
Law enforcement sources tell the CBS affiliate in Austin that a suspect they believe to be a serial bomber is dead. Early this morning, police converged on an area outside the Red Roof Inn along Interstate 35 in Round Rock, Texas, a suburb of Austin.
We ultimately located the vehicle that this suspect was known to be driving. As members of the Austin Police Department SWAT team approached the vehicle, the suspect detonated a bomb inside the vehicle, knocking one of our SWAT officers back, and one of our SWAT officers fired at the suspect as well.
Sources also provided these surveillance photos to the CBS station that appear to show the suspect inside a FedEx facility mailing a package over the weekend. He's seen wearing gloves and a hat. Since the bombings began, 2 people have been killed, 5 have been injured. A total of 5 bombs detonated.
This is something that's ongoing. It's kind of hit every neighborhood. You know, it hurts because it's not bad people. These are innocent people that are getting affected like this.
One of the bombs that went off blew up on a conveyor belt yesterday morning at a FedEx facility just outside of San Antonio. Since then, the shipping giant has said it has been providing investigators with, quote, extensive evidence. 350 federal law enforcement agents traveled to Austin to assist local police. Nikki Batiste, CBS News, Round Rock, Texas.
And now closer to home, authorities in Helena are trying to figure out why a man killed 2 victims inside their home. Suspect Caleb David Taylor was arrested late Tuesday in connection to the deaths. Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton says a concerned family friend found the victim's front door unlocked and discovered the 2 victims inside. They were last seen alive on Saturday. Sheriff Dutton says this was a violent crime, but no firearms were involved. Taylor is charged with 2 counts of homicide and 1 count of tampering with evidence. Investigators say they're looking for another person of interest. The victims' names have not been released, but we're told they were in their 60s. Taylor has a prior history with law enforcement. He was convicted of robbery 3 years ago and served time in prison until last September when he was set free on a conditional release. Now in court news, a man who shot a woman through her car window then led Billings police on a chase last year now admits to the crime. 51-year-old Stephen Kiefler pleaded guilty Tuesday to attempted deliberate homicide, criminal endangerment, and DUI. Prosecutors will recommend a sentence of 55.5 years in prison. Police were called to the area of 4th Avenue North last June. The victim, who suffered a gunshot wound to the head, told officers a man pulled up next to her and fired several shots through her window. Authorities located the suspect truck, which then sped off. The truck crashed into a pole and sped away again before ultimately crashing into a parked vehicle, then into a building. Court documents state Kiefler's daughter told police her father sent a message that day about committing suicide by cop. He has been at the Yellowstone County Jail since his arrest. And for the second time, a trial for a Livingston man accused of causing a deadly crash while intoxicated ends with a hung jury. Walter Overstreet Jr. was charged in Park County District Court with 1 count of vehicular homicide while under the influence and 2 counts of vehicular assault. Prosecutors believe Overstreet was drunk when he crashed his truck, killing 17-year-old Rhiannon Willis back in 2015. 2 others were also injured in the crash. Overstreet's blood alcohol content was reportedly 3 times the legal driving limit. The case ended just before midnight Friday in a mistrial, which is the same result when the case went to court last year. Prosecutors have not announced if they will refile the charges. The Corvallis man who trespassed and turned off a valve on an oil pipeline near Fort Benton 2 years ago was given a deferred sentence and must pay some fines for the crime. Leonard Higgins was given a 3-year deferred sentence Tuesday and ordered to pay $3,755 in restitution. Higgins was part of an organized effort by climate activists to disrupt pipeline operations in several northern states. 2 men who allegedly locked themselves to barrels outside the Stevens Creek Bison facility last Friday took 2 different directions in court. Joshua Rivera of Colorado accepted a plea deal on Tuesday. He pleaded guilty to misdemeanor trespassing and obstruction. Rivera is ordered to pay Yellowstone National Park more than $1,900. And Mark Wolf of Illinois pleaded not guilty to obstructing an agency function, obstructing a government worker, and closure violations. His next court date is set for April 4th at the Yellowstone Park Justice Center. Turning now to Health Watch, a Kalispell High School student has been diagnosed with tuberculosis, leading school and Flathead County health officials to test others that may have been exposed. School officials notified families of this situation in an email on Tuesday morning. They say the student recently returned from traveling abroad. The student is now in isolation as he's treated for the illness, and anyone who may have been exposed is currently being identified and screened. Tuberculosis, or TB, is caused by bacteria and usually attacks the lungs, kidneys, spine, and brain. The only way to contract the disease is by close contact several hours a day with someone who has the disease. It cannot be spread by simple contact with someone's clothing, a handshake, or a drinking glass. Symptoms of TB can include a cough of longer than 3 weeks, unexplained weight loss accompanied by chills, and a fever. If it's not treated properly, tuberculosis can be fatal. Meanwhile, from the University of Montana campus, a student is spending her spring break walking for those who cannot. Marita Growing Thunder plans to walk from the northern end of the Flathead Reservation to the southern end near Avaro, some 80 miles, to bring awareness to missing and murdered Indigenous women. She is the founder of Save Our Sisters, a group dedicated to shedding light on violence inflicted on Native American women in the U.S. and Canada. The Indian Law Resource Center says 1 in 3 Native American women will be raped in their lifetime and face a murder rate 10 times higher than the national average. Marita will be joined by others who want the world to know these are not disposable women. The walk honors them and offers hope.
Walking along, it's so renewing, you know, and when I did it last year, after the end of every day, there was like this sense of almost like a rebirth, like, oh my gosh, there's a future for us and that we can rise up.
Marita begins her walk on Sunday morning, March 25th, and it should take about 4 days to complete her journey. Wrapping up our news this morning, the future of the Evel Knievel Days Festival in Butte is uncertain. The event was created 18 years ago by Bill Rundle, a close friend of the world-famous Daredevil. He says at least $200,000 is needed to keep the festival going this year. If the festival gets its funding, it would be held during the last weekend of July. Rundle says he should know over the next 2 weeks if the funding will be available. And